תתקשר למשטרה. תתקשר למשטרה.
Hello everyone. On the 18th of January 2025, a 19-year-old Palestinian boy committed a terror act by stabbing people suddenly in Tel Aviv. The terrorist, who was still a child, was shot dead, and the victim was rushed to the hospital. The stabbing attack occurred in downtown Tel Aviv, precisely in the Florentine area, on Saturday the 18th of January 2025, Haaretz reported. The attacker is known to be a 19-year-old man named Salah Yahya. Quoted from the Times of Israel, Yahya carried out a knife attack on several pedestrians on Levontin Street. The young man, originally from Tulkarm, West Bank, reportedly entered Israel illegally. According to police reports, Yahya tried to attack more people before he was finally shot dead at the scene by a civilian who had a licensed weapon. Police immediately confirmed that there was no further threat to the surrounding community. A man in his late 30s who suffered serious stab wounds to his upper body. The victim was rushed to Ikilov Hospital, where he received immediate medical attention. The medical team performed surgery to treat the injuries suffered by the victim. Currently, the victim is reported to be in stable condition. According to eyewitnesses at the scene, the attack happened very quickly. A friend of the victim, who was also at the scene of the incident, recounted the moments when the stabbing occurred to the media. My friend was stabbed right in front of me. The stabbing attack came hours before a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas was due to begin. This is from Spirit of Aqsa site. Hamas praised the stabbing incident that took place in Tel Aviv on Saturday afternoon, calling it a heroic act. The incident occurred just hours before a ceasefire in Gaza came into effect. Israeli sources reported that a stabbing incident took place on Levontin Street, Tel Aviv, on Saturday, resulting in one citizen being injured and the perpetrator being killed. The Israeli broadcaster said the perpetrator of the stabbing was Salah Yahya from Tulkarm, who broke through the Israeli defenses and was 19 years old. In a statement released on Saturday, Hamas said, "The heroic action in Tel Aviv is a natural response to the Zionist massacre and affirms that the resistance attacks will not stop until the occupation ends." The statement added, "We, in the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas, bless the heroic action that took place in the center of Tel Aviv, which resulted in the death of a settler and the wounding of 2 others. We affirm that this is a natural response to the Zionist massacre and a message that the resistance attacks will continue until the occupation ends and all Palestinian lands are liberated. We accompany the departure of our martyr, fighter Salah Yahya, 19 years old, from Tulkarm, who carried out a stabbing attack on a group of settlers on one of the streets of Tel Aviv. He is a clear example of the heroes of our nation who are steadfast in the choice of resistance as the only way to end the occupation and stop the settler aggression." Hamas also said that, coinciding with the victory of our nation, the resistance, and the honorable prisoner exchange agreement, this action sends a strong message that the pulse of resistance in the West Bank will not subside and will continue to be a burning ember against the occupation and its settlers. This is from Jerusalem Post. Terrorist wounds several in stabbing attack in Florentine, Tel Aviv. The police believe that the event was a terror attack carried out by a Tulkarm resident who entered Israel illegally. Several people were wounded in a stabbing attack on Levontin Street in Tel Aviv's Florentine neighborhood, the police announced Saturday. Police determined that the incident was a terror attack, adding that the assailant tried to stab passers-by before he was shot dead at the scene by a citizen with a licensed weapon. The suspect was reported to be Salah Yahya, a 19-year-old resident of Tulkarm who entered Israel illegally, according to Yinnet. After one man in his late 30s was evacuated to Ikilov Hospital for a serious stab wound to his upper body, doctors operated on him, and he is now in stable condition, the hospital announced. A friend of the victim who was present during the attack told Mariv, "My friend was stabbed right in front of me. We were sitting in a cafe, and the incident happened at the end of the street." The witness said that, "Suddenly, there was a crazy burst of gunfire, and then someone shouted, 'Terror attack!' We all ran into the kitchen to hide. There was hysteria and chaos. People were afraid to come out. Someone said it was a stabbing attack, and what we heard was gunfire aimed at the terrorist. One of the friends said he saw 2 people lying on the ground. People started heading home as quickly as possible. People started shouting, 'Attack! Attack!' And we hid in the kitchen." Kim, a guest at the nearby taqueria restaurant, told Mariv. "Shortly after the attack, the terrorist was neutralized," the diner said. "There was panic for a brief moment, and the restaurant was full. I never thought something like this could happen on a quiet street in central Tel Aviv." The police commissioner, Superintendent Danny Levi, arrived later in the evening at the scene of the attack in Tel Aviv, accompanied by Tel Aviv District Commander, Superintendent Chaim Sargrov, and conducted a situational assessment on site. The investigation of the incident has been assigned to the central unit of the Tel Aviv district. The police commissioner instructed there to be a significant reinforcement of police officers and readiness units across Tel Aviv. At this time, numerous police units continue their extensive deployment to enhance the security of residents in the area. They are also working at the scene to collect additional evidence, including witness statements and documentation from the site, the police said in their statement. This is from ynetnews.com. Man severely wounded in Tel Aviv stabbing attack. Terrorist killed. Police say attacker, identified as 19-year-old Palestinian from Tulkarm in West Bank, charged at passers-by with a knife on the street. Suspect eliminated at scene by armed civilian. A 28-year-old man was severely wounded in a stabbing attack in Tel Aviv on Saturday afternoon, police said. The attacker, identified as Salah Yahya, 19, a Palestinian from the West Bank city of Tulkarm who entered Israel illegally, was shot and killed at the scene by an armed civilian. Police said they received reports of a man attempting to stab passers-by on Levontin Street. Large police forces, including a helicopter, were dispatched, and officers were combing the area. Earlier reports of a second incident on Tel Aviv's Ibn Gabirol Street were investigated, but no evidence was found. Tel Aviv Police District Commander-Chief Superintendent Chaim Sargrov, who arrived at the scene, described the sequence of events. The suspect observed the area from behind, waiting for the right moment, and then stabbed at least one person. He noted that a civilian at the scene identified the stabbing, opened fire at the suspect, struck him and eliminated him. This was an impressive and significant action by the civilian, he added. Sargarov said multiple forces were present at the scene and coordinated their efforts. He urged the public to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity. There are officers deployed in many locations, and anyone who notices something suspicious should report it to us, and we will handle it. He ruled out for now the presence of additional assailants. Footage from cameras shows him acting alone, but the Shin Bet investigation will provide further answers. Police Commissioner Danny Levy later arrived at the scene. The wounded victim was transported to Suraski Medical Center in moderate to serious condition. We arrived quickly with multiple units and found a man in his late 20s lying on the ground, conscious and suffering from an upper body stab wound, said Magen David Adam paramedic Itai Atias. We provided life-saving treatment, and he was responsive and speaking with us as we transported him to the hospital. Eyewitness Ite Rosen, who was nearby with friends, described the shock of hearing gunfire. We were just heading to eat when we suddenly heard a burst of shots. We didn't understand what happened. Minutes later, police and ambulances arrived. We later learned it was a terror attack. Well, that's the news about the 19-year-old terrorist boy from Palestine. This one was caught red-handed, carrying out an act of terror, so it cannot be denied by Hamas. There are many terrorist boys like this in Gaza, Palestine. They join in the attack using various weapons, and when they die, they play the victim. Hamas calls them civilians and children who are victims. How disgusting these Islamic terrorists are. That's all for this video. See you in the next video.